to the Crafty Gemini, and in this video, we're talking all about how to take our body measurements and how they relate to size charts on the back of sewing patterns. All right, so before I jump into taking my measurements and showing you how they fit on the different size charts for the various different sewing pattern companies that exist on the market today, we're gonna talk a little bit more about this new series. Now, if you like this kind of stuff and you are interested or intrigued by the idea of creating your own clothes, definitely make sure that you click my subscribe button right here on the channel so you don't miss out on my future videos. We are starting off super step-by-step from the beginning. All you newbies, welcome and come along. We're gonna be walking you through how to take your measurements, then we'll move on to working with sewing patterns, making some different garments, troubleshooting different aspects of fitting and things like that. And so I hope that you'll join us for this new series. Now in this video, I'm gonna be taking my body measurements, jotting them down, showing you my favorite measuring tapes that I like to use, how to line it up so that you can take the proper measurement, and then where to find the size charts on the back of sewing patterns. Sometimes they're inside the sewing pattern packet, but you're gonna see how our body's measurements relate to the different sizes in these sewing pattern company size charts. So I hope you'll stick around and watch the rest of this video. All right, so in this video, I'm gonna be taking measurements of my body. We're only gonna start off with the most basic three, which is gonna be your bust, your waist, and your hip. Going forward, of course, there's a million different little measurements that you can take from here to here to here to here, for shoulder to shoulder, across the back, length. There's all kinds of measurements, but it really just is going to depend on whether you're pattern drafting, meaning you are taking all the different measurements so that you can plot those points on paper to create blocks and things that you can use to create your own clothes. But what I'm gonna be doing is taking the basic measurements so that we can then take those measurements and plot them on the size charts of the different commercial and independent pattern design companies that are out there, so we can learn and see a little bit more about where exactly do we fall in these different company size charts, because I think you'll be surprised to see that there's no actual rule of standard or anything. Each company has their own size chart, and you can be totally different sizes across different pattern companies, the same way that you wear different size clothes in ready-to-wear garments. Meaning, when you go to the store, you already know in one company you might be one size, and in another company you might wear another. So it's important to look at the actual numbers of the measurements and learn about how that applies to the pattern pieces. So for the purposes of this video, I'm gonna start off with bust, waist, and hip measurements. Obviously, keep in mind the types of measurements that you'll be needing to take and jot down is also dependent on what garment you're making. If I'm making a pencil skirt, my bust measurement is not gonna matter because that part of my body is not gonna be in the garment. Does that make sense? So for skirts, shorts, pants, you're looking at waist and hip measurements and things like that going from here down, because that's what's gonna be covered by the fabric once you create the garment. So for general purposes, we'll stick to these three measurements. I'll show you how to take them, and then we'll head over and look at a few different pattern companies so we can see where my body size and measurements falls in those companies' patterns size charts. So the first thing you want to do is stand in front of a mirror and smile and be happy and love your body the way it looks. I know a lot of people don't want to look at themselves in the mirror, but I will let you in on a little secret. If you don't know what your body looks like, you will not be able to create cute and comfortable clothes that fit your body, okay? So this part of jumping into the world of making your own garments is part of the process where you have to accept the way you look and don't feel like you need to tweak the numbers or act like you're 1 inch less, or maybe let me take a few inches off this number. The numbers don't lie. So we're gonna use the measuring tape to tell us exactly the numbers we need to look at to get the pattern, cut out pattern pieces to make garments that are going to fit us. Because at the end of the day, it's about us enjoying the sewing process and making garments that fit us and look good, right? Using the fabric choices that you want, colors that you like that you maybe have a hard time finding out in the store and things like that. So first, to take your measurements, you probably want to do this in just your underwear at home. Here, I'm wearing some little tight, like legging biker shorts, so skin tight clothes would be fine as well. This shirt is not exactly super tight, so I'm just gonna tie it on the back a little bit so you can see a little bit more of my silhouette. And so part of the process is understanding the proportions of your body. This obviously took me years because, you know, when you're a teenager, you're like hip like the little hip hugger pants are in, that's what I'm gonna wear, even if my waist is all the way up here. So over the years, I've made myself plenty of clothes to know that I have a short torso and long legs. I find that most of the time, if you feel like your butt goes on forever, and in my case, I have a pretty flat butt, my waist is up here. So if I wear pants on my waist, it's gonna go from here all the way to the bottom of my butt cheeks, which is way long. So growing up, I was never a fan of high-waisted anything. Now that I'm, in my 30s, I've had a couple of kids, high-waisted is where it's at because it's what's most comfortable for me. So these are the types of things that you need to be jotting down, notes, looking at the clothes that you already have in your closet and taking notes to see what they have in common, which ones are more comfortable, and I think that's gonna help you kind of get a little bit more confident and learn a little bit more about your body, because then you'll more easily be able to translate it into the garment patterns that you're making, okay? So this is where my waist is at. Super high. I mean, it's right underneath my bust. Now, as far as the underwear that you're wearing to take your measurements, I would not put on any Spanx or anything like that unless that's what you wear all the time, because then you're not going to be taking the proper measurements. Does that make sense? So like if you very rarely wear a push-up bra, don't wear a push-up bra to take these measurements unless you plan on wearing one if you're making a top to go with it. So if you're really casual, like me, most of the time I'm wearing a sports bra and just regular casual farm type of clothes, and you're making a garment, maybe you're making a dress for a fancy wedding that has a low neckline, you're probably not gonna wanna wear a sports bra when you take the measurements before you make that garment. You wanna wear the underwear you're gonna be wearing when you'll be, or planning to wear whatever it is you're making. Does that make sense? So we're gonna start off this series with some casual stuff, t-shirts, hangout pants, leggings, joggers, things like that, okay? So don't worry. The bra I'm wearing right now is a bra actually that I made myself. It's just lined, it's a soft bra, it has lining, there's no underwire or anything. So just a regular everyday bra, okay? So you can see where my waist comes in. So this is your waist measurement. If you put your hands right where it goes in, or sometimes if it's harder to find, you can just lean over, and where that bend is, when you go like this, that's your waistline. So for me, it's up here. Now hold on, let me show you where my belly button is. It's down here. So again, I know my body, and I know I have a defined waist, but it's super high up, like hips. Look at this. Way long, okay? So I know that. So I know that silhouettes that cut my body off of here, all this is gonna be hanging out if the rise of the pants or leggings doesn't come up high enough like I want it to, okay? So just kind of take notes and look at yourself in the mirror and jot down some notes, whether your waist is here or maybe you have a waist that's like lower, it's further away from your bust. Just take down notes and kind of start to familiarize yourself with your body. All right, so we're gonna grab a measuring tape. So for taking our measurements, the first thing we're gonna start off with is a measuring tape. There's a ton of them out there. These are my favorites because whenever you take a class, whether it's online or you read a book or you go to a class in person, they typically will have you start off with having a partner measure you. Well, I don't have a partner who can measure me because usually when I'm sewing, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm in my home studio. If I woke my husband up at that time, he would not be very happy and he wouldn't even know how to take the measurements. So these are my favorites because as you can see, you can do it by yourself and you don't have to be going like this and basically distorting the measuring tape so you can't get an accurate measurement. They're great. So the first measurement we're gonna take is our bust. And by bust, I mean full bust. And as that probably sounds to you, it's gonna be the fullest part of your bust. There is another measurement that you'll often take to pick your pattern size that covers your top here, like for dresses and things, and that's your high bust. That one kind of goes up here. But for this video, we're starting off super simple. We're gonna cover 3 basic measurements: full bust, waist, and hips, okay? So let's start off with the full bust. This basically has a little hole right here and a little red snap. I snap it together, and then this slides. So I'm gonna slide it to the fullest part of my bust, and I'm using the camera here kind of as a mirror. You definitely wanna do this in front of a mirror. You want the measuring tape to be going parallel to the floor, so I think I need to hike it up a little bit, okay? So it's kind of going across this way, and from here, I'm a little bit far away, but it looks okay. If you're doing this in front of a mirror, definitely turn to your side and make sure that it's not kind of swooping down or up. You want it going right across at the fullest part of your bust. Now, the cool thing about this measuring tape is that you put it where you want it, breathe, leave it there, and then you can snap it off. So I don't even have to look down and see what the measurement is. And for me, once I snap it off, there's a red line right here that tells you the measurement, and it's 41 and a half. All right, so we're gonna write that down. And then we're gonna go down to the waist measurement. Now for me, I think it's super important to kind of look at yourself in the mirror. First of all, accept how you look, be happy, and know that the measuring tape does not lie. The measurements that the measuring tape are telling you your body measures, you need to jot those down. Don't try to cheat yourself and say, well, let me shave an inch or two off here or there, because you're gonna make a pattern, right? You're gonna make a garment that's smaller than what your body needs to fit into. So after you wasted time, money, and energy on the materials, the fabric and things, the last thing you want is to not be able to fit into that garment. So trust the measuring tape, jot down the measurements, and use that when we're picking our pattern sizes. So I'm gonna do the same thing, but at the waist. Now for me, I've made enough clothes for myself to know my body type, okay? I have a very short torso, and I have long legs. My waist is all the way up here. My bust is right here, and my waist is like right underneath it. Now from bust apex, which is basically where your nipple is, down to your waistline, this measurement, when they're drafting patterns commercially using traditional pattern drafting rules, is way bigger than what my body has. So that means if I'm using a commercial pattern that's been drafted with those standard rules, my body's not gonna fit into that garment or that pattern, right? So I need to make adjustments. So part of the process is looking at yourself in the mirror and looking at how different parts of your body relate to one another. I know my bust is here. My waist, if it's hard for you to find, basically lean over. And where your fat and skin right there kind of bends in, that is where your waist is. So for me, I know that it is right there, which is insane, because if I told my teenage self that I would wear pants up here, I would laugh and be like, super tacky. But I'm in my 30s now, I've had a couple of kids, I've embraced it and learned to love how comfy high-waisted pants are, because they fit my body the best. They're the most comfortable when they sit on my waist, all right? Now let me back up and you can see that if I'm wearing pants, this front crotch rise for a high waist is got to be hella long, okay? A lot of pants, and even in pattern pieces for pants, have a super short rise. So I already know that that is a pattern adjustment that I often have to make, adjusting the length of that front crotch rise, because I needed to come up at least 3 or 4 more inches higher to sit on my waist, okay? All this information, if you're new, might just kind of be going over your head, but just know that this is just info on like how my body is and how I know my body relates to commercial patterns, okay? So my waist measurement right here, cinch it in. Don't like suck everything in, like hold it and then be like, that's my measurement, because clearly that is not my measurement. I shaved a couple inches off just then. So I put it where it's at, nice and snug, and you want to be wearing some tight-fitting garments or just underwear. And then I just put my hands down, take a deep breath. You'll feel it expand a little. That's okay, right? The goal here is to make clothes that fit us, that are comfortable. Nobody else but you is going to see these numbers, so don't worry about that. So I breathe, it's there, pull it off, and then I can look, and my waist measurement is a 35, so I'll jot that down. All right, and now for the third and final measurement we'll take today, my hip measurement. So again, your hips are usually going to be the largest point. Oops, let me bring the slider over to the other side. It's going to be the widest point. So if you know you have a large bottom, then you're going to want to measure along, right, around the biggest part of your bottom here. Because if you're making something that's going on your bottom half, and you go up to where you think, oh, my hips are right here because I can feel my hip bones, but the bottom part here is even bigger, if you go off of this measurement, depending on the pattern and the style of the garment, it may not fit over your bottom. So go with the widest point that you have right here. And so for me, I don't have much of a butt at all, so I know it's like in the chunkiest parts here. And again, similar to the bust measurement, you want this to be going parallel at the widest part of your body. And for me, it's right there. Stand straight, take a deep breath. You'll feel it expand a little. That's what we want, the real measurement. And then snap it off and have a look. And for me, it's 47. So I can already tell you, from a 35-inch waist to 47 at the hips, that's a 12-inch difference. There's no standard pattern drafting rules that are going to be made to cover my body's dimensions, because they're really outside of the norm. And so that's why I think it's important to learn how to make our own clothes. So we're gonna take these notes down and I'm gonna head over to the table. We're gonna pick out some different patterns, commercial patterns, and then also some independent pattern design companies, and we're gonna see where my measurements land on these different companies' size charts. All right, here we have a stack of patterns. Let's start going over the size chart and see where my body's measurements land. So first up, this is a Lizette pattern for Butterick, and Liesl Gibson designs these for this commercial brand, all right? So this Lizette dress, first we'll look, if you're picking up a commercial pattern, you'll see on the front, it'll give you a size range. Most of these days are multi-sized patterns, and that means that in the one pattern pack, you'll have pattern pieces to create whatever looks are on the front in all of these sizes. So E5 covers sizes 14 through 22. Now these sizes, 14 through 22 here, has nothing to do with the sizes you buy your clothes in. So if you go to the store and you know you wear a size 18, that does not necessarily mean that you're gonna be able to use this pattern packet to create it, because that 18 that you buy in store is not the 18 that's here, okay? There's no industry standard. So each company will set their own size range and what the sizes are in their range. So this does not, I mean, I don't know how many times I can say this because people still will think, well, I bought it for the size that I wear. This has nothing at all. There's zero correlation between this and the size that you wear in regular clothes. What you need to look at is taking your measurements, like I just showed you how to do, and applying them to the size chart of that company for that pattern that you want to make. So if I want to make this dress, I'm going to forget about this for right now. Look at the size chart for Butterick, which is right here on the inside flap. If you buy this in the store, it'll be tucked in, so sometimes it's hard to see because you don't know it's there if you're a beginner. Know that it's inside the flap. So take it out and let's have a look. All right, so here's how to read this. Sizes. 6, 8, 10, all the way up to 22. That's Butterick sizes, okay? Then we'll look at the three measurements we just took, bust, waist, and hip. And you basically follow the measurements in inches across this way and see which column pertaining to which of these sizes that are listed on top you fall under. So let's have a look at mine. My bust, 41.5. So I go to bust, and I'm gonna swing across on the row that includes all the bust measurements until I find 41. Here's 40, here's 42. For me, I would end up in between Butterick sizes 18 and 20 for my bust measurement, okay? Now, both of these sizes are included in this pack, so that means I could grade in between these sizes to get to what I needed to. And there are other measurements to look at on the patterns that can affect this drastically based on the design style or the silhouette of the garment, but we're not gonna get into that just yet. For those of you that are beginners, we're starting easy. Just want you to kind of get familiar with these three measurements and finding where you fit as a place to start in these pattern company size charts. Waist measurement. Here's my waist. I'm going to come over till I find 35. Keep going. So my waist measurement now is between sizes 20 to 22. So I'm no longer here. Now my waist measurement is here. Now let's see where the hip lands me. So hip measurement, I'm looking for 47. So here's hip, come across, and it's not even on the chart. So for me, 47 is going to put me here in a bigger size range that's not even included in this pack, okay? So if you have a body type like mine and you've tried to make clothes before, this is probably where you've run into issues because you think that you can just choose one measurement and write it all the way down by cutting all the pattern pieces for that specific size. So you need to know how to go in between sizes to adjust pattern pieces so that they fit your body's dimensions, okay? And we'll get into that later on. But just know this is where I fall on Butterick patterns. So in between 18 and 20, in between 20 and 22 for the waist, and then off the scale for my hip measurement. See what I mean by my 47-inch hips and how they relate to my waist and bust is not typical. It's not industry standard of how basic pattern drafting rules apply to creating the pattern pieces. This is why a lot of people basically make their own patterns from scratch, okay? So now, let's move on to the next pattern. This is Indigo Essentials by Amy Barrickman, and this is for a raglan top. You can just see from the picture that it's pretty loose fitting. It looks a little bit maybe semi-fitted through the bust, but it's kind of loose along the waist and the hips. All right, so if we flip this one over, we'll see that there is no pattern chart, a size chart like the commercial patterns do. Here it has some measurements, but it's telling you these are the finished garment bust measurements only. So instead, this is an independent pattern company, so if you don't see it on the back page, it's usually going to be inside. And you can see it here on the instruction sheet. So body measurements for sizing. Now this company, and for this pattern, notice they only have the bust measurement and the hips. There's no waist measurement. So you basically have to use what they're giving you here. And I'm sure that that has to do with the style of the garment, because it kind of just goes from the bust and just flares out to the hips, okay? So the waist measurement is, they have it down here for finished size of the waist. But if you're choosing your size based on just these measurements, let's see where we fall. Bust of 41 and a half. So let's go to bust. And 41 and a half is going to put me real close to size L here, because the XL is going to be 43 inches. So it's a little bit bigger than what my measurement is. So we'll call it large for now. And then if we skip the waist measurement and we look for hips here, I'm going to come across till I see 47. 47 is going to land me in this range. So size extra large. Again, I'm fitting along two sizes. So again, for my body's proportions and the dimensions of how they relate to one another from my waist to hip measurement, I have to adjust between sizes. So in this pattern company here, I'm large and extra large on the bottom half. Next one. These are the Ginger Jeans patterns by Closet Case Patterns. So let's flip this. This is an independent pattern company. She has her size chart on the back like this. And again, the three basic measurements, bust, waist, hip. Let's see where we fall here. Bust, I'm looking for 41 and a half. Let's go with 42 because it goes from 40 to 42, so I'm closest to this one. So here, I'm a size 16 for bust. The waist measurement, I'm a size 16 as well. So Closet Case, doing good. I'm really close here. I'm keeping in one size range for my body's dimensions. And then the hip measurement is obviously going to be off the chart because it always is. Hip come across, I'm looking for 47, and it's bumped me up, not the size that I had for bust and waist, not the next one, but in between the next two sizes. So my 47-inch hips are going to land me here. All right? So again, size 16 to 18-ish, 9 or 20, in between 18 and 20 for Closet Case Patterns for my body. So I've already gone from like sizes large, extra large, 18, 20. There's different. And remember that each pattern company decides what they want to call their sizes. Some companies will letter them. Size A, B, C, D, E. Some people call them size 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Might be like a 3XL. So it just depends. You have to make sure that you do the research and look to see that specific company's chart. This is for this cute little dress, a McCall's pattern, so a basic commercial pattern. Going to be inside the flap here. Their sizes are up top. Let's see if this pattern, this pattern envelope covers sizes large, extra large, and 2XL. So let's see if my measurements land me within the pieces that is included in this envelope. So we're looking at bust, waist, and hip here. Bust, I'm looking for 41 and a half. So I come across. 41 and a half is going to put me close to the 2X. Here's 42 inches. The large, or excuse me, to the XL. The large ends at 40, and I'm just right there where the XL size starts. The waist measurement, we come across here. Yeah, so the waist lands me in the range of 34 to 37. 35 falls in there, so I'm still in the XL range. And then the hip measurement, come across till I find 47, and 47 is going to be in between extra large and the 2XL. So it's going to put me here. All right? So as you can see, different size ranges across different companies, and the measurements bounce around in the different columns for the specific sizes. Let's do a couple more just to show you. Let's do this one. This is a Vogue top, a loose fitting. It's kind of fitted through the bust, and then it kind of drapes out for this top that's made of stretch knits. This is a Vogue pattern by Marcy Tilton. This covers sizes large, extra large, 2XL. Again, a commercial pattern, so it's going to be inside the back flap. All right, so we're looking for a bust of 41 and a half, and we come across here. Large ends at 40, extra large starts at 42. So I'm like right here, we'll call it extra large. Waist of 35 puts me in this extra large range, still same size. And then the hip measurement, again, is not going to be there. It's always bumped up bigger. I already know. And so it tends to follow, even though I fall under different sizes for the different companies, it tends to follow a similar pattern, right? Because of the amount of difference that there is between my waist and my hip measurement. This bottom half always varies like this, okay? It bumps me up to 1 or 2 more sizes. So 47 is going to be there. Let's do a couple more. This is a little simple t-shirt pattern by my friend Melly of Blank Slate Patterns. We're gonna flip it over. She has a big chart on the back here that includes the measurements in both inches and then also in centimeters on the bottom corner there. So bust, let's see on her sizes. Now notice, in her chart, she includes high bust, bust, waist, and hip. This high bust measurement is not the one that I took and jotted down. It's a different number from my bust here. This is the full bust. So make sure that you're looking along the correct row for the measurement that you took. So bust, we're looking for a bust of 41. 41 is going to put me close to the large, but in between the large and the XL, because this is a 4-inch difference here. So I'll be somewhere in the middle. Waist measurement of 35 puts me at the extra large. So far I'm between large and extra large. Waist measurement is extra large. And then the hip measurement, 47, it bumps me up between the next two sizes. So 46, here's 49, I'll be somewhere here. So it's between XL and 1X. So again, I'm bouncing all over the place on these size charts, so I need to be able to relate these measurements to the actual pattern pieces. All right, well, that is it for now. I hope you learned a little something or maybe gained some confidence to jump into the world of making and sewing your own garments. If you enjoyed this video, hit it with a thumbs up below, share it with your crafty friends on the different social media sites, and leave me a comment below. Let me know what you learned today and maybe give me some suggestions on what you want to see in upcoming garment sewing video tutorials. Thanks again for watching this video. I hope that you'll join me and follow along in making some really fun, cute, and practical garments, and I will see you in the next video.